hard was it to move on from that marriage in the 80s? Mid-80s, right? 86?
Yeah. I went back to America when, in that time, nobody knew who George was. So Callum and I grew up in peace as two ordinary people.
Yeah. And, look, you remained on good terms.
Because you see, as you can see, it was so hard because being married to somebody like George, all I could ever be here in this country was George's ex. And I had so much more to do with my life. So I went back to America and continued there.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, that's the thing. You were an international model when you met. You were, I mean, he was obviously a big star, probably the most famous footballer in the world, but you were an in-demand model. So were you based in America at that time, the mid-70s?
When I met George first?
Yeah.
No, I was modelling in London and I met him at Olympia at a fashion show.
So how did the modelling come about, apart from the fact that you're obviously very, very beautiful? But how did you get into the industry?
My mum sent me to the Lucy Clayton School of Modelling.
Right. And was there an audition? Did you send photos in? How did it work?
Well, you had to go to school to learn how to walk and how to behave, right? And how to, you know, the thing on your head, it was the real thing. You had to go to the School of Modelling. This was in the early 70s, remember? So...
how old were you when you went in there?
17.
Right.
And then when you go, if they think you have a career, they ask you to stay on their books.
OK.
So I stayed on.
So there's a certain walk, is there, if you're a model?
It's not so much a walk. It was in those days, but it's just, yes. It's more about how they said that you had to learn how to carry yourself.
I see. OK. Posture would be a factor too. How can you improve my posture to make me more model-like? Do I have to sit up straight?
Well,
is that what I've got to do?
I wouldn't have you working so hard.
Well, that would help.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what about your facial expressions? I mean, is that something you're taught in modelling school? The pout? The glare?
No, that all came along with the glamour girls, you know, because Twiggy never pouted. She just smiled or just looked normal. She was beautiful. But when the glamour was brought into it, then they...
So if I'm doing my mathematics, you went into modelling in the 60s?
Yeah.
And that would have been a golden era for British fashion and for modelling, with the likes of Twiggy and yourself.
Yep. And then I went to New York and... God, can my brain go back that far at this time of night? I didn't last very long in New York because I wanted to be with the palm trees. I wanted to go where the palm trees were. So I took myself off to L.A. And then when I was in L.A., I went to a restaurant, a lunch at a restaurant called Roughage and the Anatomy Asylum, only in L.A.
Of course.
And at Roughage... the man who owned it was a man called Richard Simmons, and he asked, he had a room in the back, and I said, what do you do with that room? And I said, let me teach class. So when I was in New York, I used to train with the dancers at Carnegie Hall. So when I met Richard, I said, let me teach class. So I made up a class that I did with the dancers that I thought that ordinary people could do. And so I started teaching class, and that was it.
Yeah, and I know that your interest is not just in sort of beauty and looking your best, but being your best from the inside out, health, that kind of thing. So when did that become an interest of yours, being healthy?
From what I can remember as a young girl, because my father owned betting offices, and he would come home on a Friday night with carrier bags full of all different kinds of fruits and vegetables. That
I thought you were going to say carrier bags of cash. So
No.
the bookie,
No.
the bookie always wins.
Yeah. Carrier bags full of fruits and vegetables, and nobody else in the house would eat them. I would eat every single one of them, and I know today that everything that I ate was really good and really healthy.
Yeah.
So then when I went to LA, it just became, it was normal. It was part and parcel, and it was really fascinating because it's so easy to do over there. It's hard to do in this country.
Yeah.
But when the weather's warm, you're much more inclined to look after your health internally because then it shows externally.
And because the weather's better in LA, people see more of your body. So there's nowhere to hide, is there?
No, exactly. And also because you're surrounded by beautiful people. Because every country in the world sends all their most beautiful people to LA to become famous.
Yeah.
right? So everywhere you go, the supermarket, the petrol station, everybody's gorgeous. So
were you treated well in the world of modelling?
Oh, yes.
Any unscrupulous photographers or managers?
No, not a one. Well, it was too soon.
No casting couch?
It was 40 years ago.
This is all pretty isn't it?
I did have one casting. It wasn't a casting couch. It was more... So when I got to LA, this man called Jack Gilardi, if I remember correctly, asked me if I'd like to be an actress. So I said, well...
Always a leading question.
I don't know. I
always used to fall for that one.
Did you?
Many times.
So he took me to... one night, he said, I want you to meet me at the Polo Lounge. I want to introduce you to some of my friends. So I go to the Polo Lounge, and I'm all dressed up and thinking I'm going to have a lovely evening. And I walk in, and there's 4 men sitting behind the booth, right? Jack Gilardi, Telly Savalas, and 2 others. I didn't know who they were.
Telly Savalas, star of Kojak, of course.
Yeah. We're going back to the 70s. So I walk in, and I look at these 4 guys, and I think, why am I sitting here with these 4 men? And they're all laughing and drinking, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, this doesn't feel right. So I excused myself and scarpered, because I thought, this is just not, so there is no such thing as casting couch. These women know what they're doing.
What are your thoughts about the Me Too movement?
I don't agree with any movements. I think each individual woman takes it upon herself to make changes, because that's where it begins, with the woman in the mirror or the man in the mirror, as Michael would say. So I don't agree. I didn't agree with the feminist movement, because it's women pitting themselves against men, which is stupid because they're so far superior. So I don't know.
It's no contest, is it, between men and women?
No. Every woman has got it inside of her to be the best she wants to be. So if you want to make change, babe, you go ahead and start with you.
How did you become a fitness guru to some seriously big names, including Daryl Hannah, Cher and Sharon Stone?
Can we just say it's Sharon Stone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Sharon Stone, yeah. Sorry.
That's what your people told me. I hope that wasn't...
No, you're right.
I
was thinking of
error.
Sharon Osbourne. Sorry, I was friends with her, but I wasn't her fitness guru.
Thank God for that.
Can we just say...
That's a tough gig, isn't it?
Yes. Can we just say... Happy birthday to Cher. It's her birthday today.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Is
so
she
let's all sing happy birthday to the old girl.
Yeah, exactly. She's a remarkable person. Did she need a fitness guru? There's nothing on her, is there, Cher?
No, it wasn't about losing weight in those days. It was about being the best you could be. It was about being able to stand up on stage, sing your heart out, dance your heart out, and do it every single night. So it was about being fit, not about being skinny, because we were beanpoles in those days because the chemicals weren't introduced.
You were married to that footballer. You've worked with the likes of Cher.
Are you getting a little nag from behind the scenes?
Not at all. But actually, I wonder if there's a through line. All of the celebrities that you've either loved and known very well, or the celebrities you've worked with, are they different to the rest of us? Is there a certain quality that someone like Cher has that others don't?
Yes. Working with her, what I learned was a work ethic. She has a work ethic beyond anything else. If it's her job, there's a focus, there's a determination. You do what you've got to do to be your best to get the job done. And that is because she is her own industry. Those individuals are their own industry. So they have to, just like a car manufacturer has the best parts for the best car, they have the best people working for them to make them their best. They never hear the word no.
Oh, that's it. They don't. That's just not in their vocabulary,
no.
Right?
And that makes you a very special person when you don't hear the word no.
And so what is the key to good health?
That's a very good question, and it's so hard to answer in this day and age, because the key to good health is eating as nature intended. But what nature intended has been gone for years, centuries. The chemicals and the poison that are sprayed on our food make us eating healthy nigh on impossible. So in today's age, to be healthy and to eat healthy, it's got to be organic. It's got to be to uncondition the way you've been taught. We've been conditioned to eat generation after generation after generation, and it's all been wrong. What we're learning now is it's all wrong. Excuse me. For some reason, I've got a frog in my throat.
I think it's the bad air here at GBNews.
It's like in a rabbit tunnel, isn't it? Bless his heart.
It's Colin Brazier's aftershave. I'd like to apologise.
Is that what it is?
He's old school. Aramis.
I thought you were going to say Old Spice.
No. He's classier than that.
Oh, OK. Where were we?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the issue is that even if you eat vegetables and plants all day long, it's not adulterated. Yeah.
Yes, because what you're eating is chemicals.
We touched on veganism earlier in our big debate. Do you think there's an argument for veganism or not? Do you think we need meat?
I think what's happening with the veganism thing is that people don't like this mass farming of animals. So there is no humane way to destroy an animal, a cow or a pig or a lamb. And once you've seen a baby lamb, how could you possibly eat it? So for a while, we shut off the fact that we have to slaughter these creatures. So what happened was the veganism movement pointed to that, took that on board and didn't want it to happen. So it became the only way to live. I don't know that I agree with it 100%, but I do think it's a step in the right direction. But I don't agree with anything that goes full bore and takes away... I won't say what nature intended, because we don't know if nature intended us for eating meat, but they have been doing it since the Stone Age. But even that's not an argument, because they've been dragging women by the hair and what have you since the Stone Age. So I don't know.
Fred Flintstone.
I don't think it's going to save the world, no.
Now, going back to where the conversation started...
Our dear George.
You've certainly, having researched you this afternoon, never traded on that marriage. And... you know, again, I would extend my apologies to you, thinking that we were only going to talk about George, because I've got so many questions about health and fitness and all the rest of it. You know, people watching will be curious, knowing full well that you're not, perhaps unlike others, you're not somebody that has profited from his memory. You were his wife. You had a child together, Callum, who I've met and worked with. What a lovely guy. He got your good looks.
Thank you.
But in your book, your autobiography, there was a hook line, and... And the hook line of the book is, I didn't realise that 6 years of marriage would last a lifetime.
Babes, it has. Look, here I am. And you introduced me as George, best wife, talk about George, and boom. You know...
So is it the media, is it the media, really, that are responsible for that?
Well, who else?
Yeah. I mean, privately, is it raised quite often as well? I mean, is it...
No.
No.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, why? It was 40 years ago.
Was it hard to find love after that marriage?
Fortunately, I did, but yes, it was. Because I always say, George, sometimes I look up and I say, George, you have a lot to answer for. Because people always say, oh, but he was the most magnificent footballer. But he was a very selfish, magnificent footballer. And in his alcoholic selfishness, he did a lot of damage. And that damage... You know, it stays with you and with the people around him. And I think, personally, that when he got his new liver and he was good for a year and then he started drinking again, I think because when his brain started to come back to normal and he started remembering what he'd done to so many people, I don't think he could manage that guilt. So in order to get rid of those feelings and those emotions and those memories... It was the easiest thing to do was to have another drink.
Did you notice it quite early doors in the relationship that there was a problem?
I was young. I had no idea what alcoholism was.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. And I just thought he needed somebody to cook him dinner and look after him and love him and settle him down. But that wasn't the case.
But you have Callum to show for it.
Oh, I do. I wouldn't change a thing.
How's he doing?
He's doing absolutely magnificently. He's chairman of Dorking Wanderers Ladies Football Club.
That's asking for trouble, isn't it?
No, he loves
That's
his
like
girls.
a fox in a hen house, isn't
No,
it?
not at all. That's the old Callum. He's absolutely loves looking after these ladies, working with them.
Sure he does.
And he's really enjoying it because it's in his genes to the football.
Yeah.
He's a natural for it.
And you know what? He's prevailed over, some issues, hasn't he? And, managed to sort of,
Yes.
make a great recovery in terms of his health.
Yes.
And I think there was a time when he wasn't looking after himself.
That's why I had to come back to this country.
And that is a great thing. And I feel, having spoken to him in the past, that he's got closure about that. But it can't have been an easy childhood for him.
Well, what wasn't an easy childhood? Having a father.
First of all, his dad when his dad wasn't well and able to be a full father, and then the memory, the lingering memory, that the burden of that sort of legacy, I suppose.
Yes, everybody expected from Callum, and he had nobody to guide him, to say, take these steps, don't take these steps. That's why I came back to this country, because I realised the boy needs grounding. And there was nobody here to do that, because when his father died, he was just floundering. There were no family members here to help him. So I came home, but eventually he found his way and all is good. What's the matter?
And so, tell me about this. What is next for you?
Next, babe, I'm going to be 70 years old next month.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Have you had... I mean, this is another personal question. We'll probably fall out over this as well.
You'll probably fall out, but go ahead anyway.
Have you had work done?
Well, of course I have.
Have you?
Yes.
I tell you what, though, whoever's done it, it's pretty good.
It was done ages ago. Not a lot, just a little bit.
A little tweak here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't look like a victim of the plastic surgeon's knife.
Well, thank the good Lord. Next for me is I want to make, which is so possible now, 70 the new 50.
Yeah. Well, look, bodily you're ready for that, aren't you? And you're living in the UK now?
I've been here for 15 bloody years.
Is that right? Do you miss America?
Desperately.
What, the weather, the people?
No, the freedom. The space, the freedom and the weather.
How did you get on with the pandemic?
Well, I loved it because I just did nothing. Well, I went to the gym every day and I make jewellery, so I was making my crystal jewellery.
Amazing. So do you sell that jewellery?
When I make it, yeah.
Oh, my goodness stuff. Well, look, I tell you what, it's been a fascinating conversation. I want to thank you so much for coming in. And I've got an idea, which is, why don't you come back to be on our panel? And we don't have to talk about marriages. We don't have to talk about the 70s.
It depends what your panel is talking about.
Well, we'll talk about politics and world affairs.
Ooh, lovely,
I'm sure we've got plenty.
Can we talk about menopause? I'm an expert on menopause.
Yes, you are, actually. We've only got a short moment, but you have written several books that are there for women in their 40s or over 40. One of them is on the menopause. So what do any of my female viewers who are watching that are going through the change need to know about the menopause?
That it's a natural progress of the body, like puberty. You do not need chemicals to go through it.
Yeah, well, that's really good to know. Well, look, I can't wait to get you back on the panel. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm sorry for being rude in the beginning.
You weren't rude.
It was just such a surprise. I was like, oh, God, here we go.
Well, of course, to be honest with you, we had a mix of things to talk about, but I can understand your sensitivity around that particular relationship that has, I guess, gone to define your life. And it's the fault of people like me, Angie.
I know.
It's always the media to blame.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.